All right, let's jump right into it. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're tackling a really profound, deeply human question. What actually happens to us when justice completely fails? Today, we are looking at a fascinating source, an article featuring modern stories that were inspired by the themes in Keigo Higashino's brilliant novel Silent Parade. The source material digs deep into the psychological aftermath of unpunished crimes and unresolved grief. Basically, we're going to break down how human beings react when the legal system just leaves them totally hollow. And we'll be focusing on 3 very different, incredibly gripping case files today.
Now, I want you to really think about this for a second. When justice cannot return the person you loved, what do you do with the anger that remains? It's a heavy one, right? These stories, they don't argue that victims have to forgive, and they definitely don't suggest that finding out the truth just magically makes grief disappear. Instead, they're asking us how we move forward when hatred threatens to become our final, lasting relationship with the people we've lost.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Case File 1, The Man Across the Street.
So we meet Mark Carter. He's an Ohio father whose 17-year-old daughter, Emily, disappeared about 9 months ago. And Mark has become totally obsessed with his neighbor, Daniel, the guy the entire neighborhood is convinced is responsible. Now, the police actually did search Daniel's house. They even took him in. But, the legal system needs actual proof. There was no body, no blood, no conclusive footage. So, Daniel comes right back home. The whole neighborhood is just outraged. During a get-together at Mark's house, a younger neighbor named Tyler ominously leans in and suggests that someone really ought to do something about Daniel. Mark just tells him not to do anything stupid, but the seed is definitely planted.
Inside Mark's home, the psychological toll is just devastating. Mark is so consumed with this burning hatred for Daniel that he literally stops talking about his daughter. His wife, Sarah, sees this happening and hits him with this crushing realization. She says, "You watch him more than you remember her." I mean, wow. Mark's absolute obsession with revenge is actively overriding the memory of the very daughter he's supposed to be grieving.
And then, the tension snaps. At 1:07 a.m., Tyler texts Mark, he won't be there forever. Mark types out the word stop, but he deletes it. He doesn't reply at all. 3 days later, 2:17 in the morning, Daniel's house is completely engulfed in flames. Tyler actually set the fire. But here is the horrifying turning point in the story. Daniel's innocent 12-year-old niece, Lily, happened to be sleeping inside. She is pulled from the flames with severe burns.
Mark ends up going to the police, not because he lit the match, but because the sheer weight of his own silence finally hits him. In his confession, he admits, "I wanted somebody else to do what I couldn't." He didn't explicitly ask Tyler to do it, sure, but he certainly didn't stop him either. His silence was this incredibly dangerous form of complicity. He wanted the result without taking the responsibility, and an innocent kid paid the price. It's only by confronting that really dark truth that Mark can finally sit at his breakfast table and stop staring out the window.
Moving right along, let's look at Case File 2, My Brother's Name.
This second story introduces us to a Palestinian family mourning their 22-year-old son Rami, who died under some really mysterious circumstances. His father brings Rami up constantly, basically painting him as this flawless, perfect victim who was betrayed by a local guy named Samir. But then comes the twist. Rami's sister, Mariam, finds a hidden audio file on Rami's old laptop, recorded just a few days before he died. It's a conversation between Rami and Samir, and on the tape, Rami says, "That's why I'm asking you to help me." Samir didn't betray Rami at all. Rami had actually gotten himself involved in something highly dangerous, carrying packages for the wrong people, and he went to Samir desperately looking for a way out.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core conflict here. Mariam's mother actually knew Rami was in trouble the whole time, but she stayed quiet to protect the father's idealized version of their son. You see, the father needed the idealized Rami, this perfect victim and a clear-cut villain, just to survive his own grief. But the truth? That's the real Rami. A frightened, imperfect young man who made some pretty huge mistakes. Mariam realizes that by protecting this false, perfect memory, they're actually erasing who her brother truly was.
So, Mariam finally plays the recording for her dad. The illusion shatters. But instead of the explosive anger they were all bracing for, the father experiences this profound shift. He just asks what his son was really like. The very next morning, instead of shouting Samir's name in anger, the father quietly moves Rami's empty chair just a little bit closer to the table. He decides he'd rather know the son who was actually there, flawed and real, than the saint he'd completely invented.
Which brings us to our third story. Case File 3, The Empty Chair.
Here we meet Miriam Levy, an Israeli mother who keeps a literal empty chair at Friday Shabbat dinners for her deceased 26-year-old daughter Noah. But this chair, it's really more of a monument to her unresolved anger. Miriam is entirely consumed by a man named Avi Ben Ami, who was questioned in Noah's death but never charged. Miriam spends years tracking this guy. She knows his address, where he works, even where his daughters go to school. She refuses to let go of this obsession because in her mind, letting go of the anger feels like a betrayal of Noah. Her hatred has essentially become her form of loyalty.
But then we get another absolute gut punch, this time from Noah's younger sister Yael. During dinner, Miriam brings up Avi yet again, and Yael just finally snaps. She asks her mom what Noah's favorite movie was, and Miriam can't remember. Yael looks at her and delivers this crushing line, "You remember him better than you remember Noah." It's tragic, really. Miriam's fixation on the man she hates has entirely displaced the beautiful everyday memories of her own daughter.
Totally shaken by this, Miriam goes digging through Noah's old things and finds a phone. And on it is this super mundane 30-second video of Noah and Yael just laughing in the kitchen over some burnt food. It's not tragic, it's not deeply symbolic, it's literally just Noah being alive. Miriam watches it and just breaks down. She realizes she'd allowed the single day Noah died to completely overwrite the 26 years she actually lived.
The following Friday, everything changes. Miriam actually has her husband move the empty chair away from the table. She reclaims her daughter's memory and she tells Yael, "I don't forgive him, but maybe I don't have to look at him every day anymore." She realizes, she doesn't have to forgive the suspect, but she absolutely doesn't need hatred to keep Noah's memory alive either.
So what does this all mean? Let's wrap this up with our conclusion: what we leave behind.
So the crucial point here is looking at how these three distinct families handled the incredibly heavy burden of unresolved grief. Silence and memory take on some really warped shapes in the face of tragedy. Mark Harder's silence wasn't innocence, right? It was a dangerous complicity that ended up hurting a child. Mariam's mother used silence as this misguided shield to protect her husband, but it erased her real son in the process. And Miriam Levy's anger morphed into a false form of remembrance, where hating the suspect literally became more important than loving her daughter. In all three cases, true healing only started when they forced themselves to confront these painful truths. It really makes us look at the dangerous ways we all process our own anger when the world refuses to give us closure.
Now, as this explainer wraps up, I have to let you in on a secret. We've only covered the first 3 case files from this incredible source text today. The article actually features 5 distinct, brilliant stories exploring these themes. There's one about a viral video that turns a complex human into a simple symbol, and another about a surgeon holding the life of his father's betrayer in his own hands. To discover the gripping fates of those final families, you absolutely must read the rest at imaginarytalks.com/5 modern stories inspired by Keigo Higashino's Silent Parade.
I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on. Can we remember the dead without building our lives around the people we blame? It's a question that asks us to really consider whether our anger is truly serving those we've lost, or if it's just a way to avoid the complex, messy reality of moving forward. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope it leaves you thinking deeply about the true nature of memory, justice, and healing.